Good afternoon. My name is Ted Ritzer, and I'm the host for today's Greening Government webinar speaker series. And just to give you a little bit of a sense of how the session will work, it'll consist of about 40 minutes or so of presentation by our speaker, followed by a Q&A session. If you hover your mouse over the top of your screen, you should see a Q&A button where you can post questions that our speaker will respond to at the end of the session. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our speaker for today and the topic. The speaker is Laura de Carolis with the Municipal Climate Change Action Center. From reading Laura's bio, she has a Master's of Science in, I think it's Environmental Science from Western, and also a Bachelor of Science in Environmental Science as well. And you had worked for with the City of Windsor before coming to Alberta and working with the Municipal Climate Change Action Center. And the topic for today's session that Laura is going to present is on municipal case studies. So thanks so much, Laura, for joining us, and I look forward to a great presentation.
Thanks, Ted. Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us for our webinar today as part of the Greening Government's webinar series. As Ted mentioned, I work for an organization called the Municipal Climate Change Action Center, and today the focus of my webinar is going to be on presenting some case studies from leading Alberta municipalities that have taken action to address climate change by improving their energy efficiency and reducing their greenhouse gas emissions. So for those of you that aren't familiar with the Municipal Climate Change Action Center, I'll provide a bit of background. We were originally established by the Government of Alberta back in 2009 as one of the strategic actions under the 2008 climate change strategy. We operate as a joint partnership between Alberta Environment and Parks, Municipal Affairs, the Alberta Association of Municipal Districts and Counties, as well as the Alberta Urban Municipalities Association. Our mandate is to help Alberta municipalities reduce their greenhouse gas emissions and improve their energy efficiency. And to achieve this, we provide municipalities with funding and incentives, tools, and education. Municipalities have a very important role to play in addressing climate change, as they're responsible for so many different areas that influence emissions, as illustrated on this slide. So from operating the facilities, to their fleet, to their land use planning policies, to providing water and waste services, many of the activities and services municipalities provide have an impact on the amount of carbon that's inputted into the atmosphere. At the same time, municipalities and their residents are directly impacted by climate change. They're often on the front lines, and in recent years, extreme weather events such as flooding, hailstorms, and wildfires have served as unfortunate reminders of the importance of building resilience and adapting to climate change. For these reasons, it's critical that municipalities are a part of the climate change solution for both mitigation and adaptation. So in terms of our own initiatives, in the past, we have focused primarily on climate change mitigation and more specifically on helping municipalities improve their energy efficiency. Our flagship program, the Taking Action to Manage Energy, or TAME as I'll call it, initiative, was developed to achieve this goal. I'm going to be providing some more context on the TAME initiative later, so that's all the details I'll give for now. But it is important to note that it was an energy efficiency building program. So in addition to TAME, we have offered pilot projects and incentives for municipalities to further improve their energy efficiency by upgrading their outdoor lighting fixtures to more efficient alternatives and by making their wastewater treatment plant process more efficient. In addition, on the renewable energy side of things, we had a solar PV pilot project, which like TAME, I'll be discussing later on in my presentation. In addition to providing municipalities with incentives, we also offer education and capacity building programs to municipalities on the topic of climate change. All of our education resources, from toolkits to workshop reports to webinar recordings, can be accessed through our website, mccac.ca, including the recording of this webinar today. As well, we have another website, a secondary website called Alberta Greenhouse Gas Toolkit. This website focuses on guiding municipalities through the process of inventorying their greenhouse gas emissions to taking action to reduce them at the community level. And so that can be accessed at albertaGHGtoolkit.ca, and there's also a direct link to that website from our website. So what is a TAME Buildings Initiative all about? The goal of the TAME Building Initiative is to help municipalities retrofit their buildings by providing them with knowledge, tools, as well as funding support for the implementation of retrofits. So we provide project analysis tools to help municipalities understand the current energy use in their buildings, as well as the potential for future energy and emission reductions and the business case for their retrofit project. To deploy the retrofits, we provide funding to offset the capital costs of the retrofit projects in the form of an implementation rebate and a greenhouse gas bonus. Participants in TAME move through a series of steps, beginning with benchmarking the energy use in their buildings, to completing detailed energy audit on each building, finally through to construction and project verification. We have seen a wide variety of energy conservation measures implemented through our program, from upgrades to mechanical systems such as furnace and boiler replacements, to changes to their lighting fixtures and ballasts, as well as occupancy control such as motion sensors, through to building envelopes, so things like changing windows and doors, upgrading weather stripping, and upgrading insulation. And then on the renewable energy side of things, we've also had municipalities install rooftop solar PV to generate clean energy. So to date, we've had 75 different municipalities use our energy benchmarking services, and this has allowed us to build a database of over 430 municipal buildings. This database is unique because it contains energy efficiency data specifically on municipal buildings and specifically to Alberta. So this allows us, when we're talking to a municipality and walking them through a program, to compare the energy efficiency of their building to similar buildings in Alberta. In terms of participants that have gone on to do retrofit projects, we've had 25 municipalities complete 54 retrofits to date, and all but one of those projects are fully completed as of today. In terms of the overall investment that municipalities are putting into this program, they've invested $4.6 million in capital funding to making these upgrades, and $800,000 of this funding has been contributed through our rebates. So what does this all mean to municipalities? What are the benefits, and why does energy efficiency matter to them? Well, in terms of the collective range of projects we've had, they're saving municipalities a total of $400,000 per year in their operating costs through lower energy bills. This translates to a savings of 30,000 gigajoules of energy and 2,400 tons of emissions each year, which is equivalent approximately to removing 500 cars off the road annually. So that's just an overview of the TAME program and the collective results. And now I'm going to dive into two case studies on municipalities that have participated in the program directly. The first municipality that I'm going to provide an overview of is Parkland County, a rural municipality just west of Edmonton. Parkland County participated in the TAME program and completed their retrofit projects in 2014. They did a multi-facility retrofit, including their county center, their main administrative building, as well as their county services building, through which ambulance and fire services are deployed, and finally the Tomahawk Workshop, which is their maintenance and public works building. Overall, in these three building retrofits, Parkland County invested just under $230,000, with about $70,000 being contributed through the TAME rebates. In terms of the measures they implemented, they installed efficient motors and variable frequency drives. The variable frequency drives are very important because they not only led to energy efficiency improvements through more efficient motors, but actually allowed them to change the operation schedule of the motors themselves. So without variable frequency drives, the motors and pumps would be running 24/7 operation when this might not be needed for the actual building needs itself. So the VFDs, they allow the motors to only be run when they're needed, decreasing operation down from 24/7. In addition, Parkland County, in the county services building, they installed a building management system. This is what's pictured in the top picture on the slide. The building management system is allowing Parkland County to optimize their energy use in the building by adjusting their mechanical and electrical systems based on things like occupancy, the time of day, and the number of users in the building. In addition, Parkland installed a lighting retrofits in all 3 buildings that they retrofitted. So this included upgrades from halogen fixtures, metal halide fixtures, and incandescent fixtures to more efficient LEDs. One thing that's interesting to note is not only did they improve the efficiency of the lighting fixtures themselves, but they were actually able to cut down on the number of fixtures that they were using. So in the County Services building pictured here, they were able to cut their lighting fixtures down by about half, and their lighting output and quality actually improved. The final measure that Parkland County implemented, once again in all 3 of the buildings they retrofitted, was they upgraded the weather stripping and sealing on their buildings in order to minimize air and heat loss. So all told, these energy conservation measures are helping the municipality save about $33,000 per year in utility costs. Factoring in the rebate we provided them, this is helping them achieve a payback period of just under 5 years. So this is a very competitive and good investment. In terms of energy and greenhouse gas emissions, they've reduced their energy use by 16% relative to the baseline condition, and their greenhouse gas emissions by 12% relative to the baseline condition, which translates to a total of 195 tons per year. Another municipality that participated in the TAME program and, like Parkland County, retrofitted 3 buildings is the town of Beaumont. Beaumont retrofitted their town hall, their fire hall, and their RCMP building. The total cost of the retrofit was about $48,000, with about $24,000 being contributed by the MCCAC. It's interesting to note that many of the energy conservation measures that they implemented are very similar to Parkland County. And we have seen some trends in a lot of our buildings in terms of the measures that they have gone through with, and this just points to the effectiveness of these measures. And generally the ones that I'm presenting today have very good payback periods and energy savings. So the town of Beaumont, like Parkland County, they also implemented a building management system to optimize their energy use, as well as programmable thermostats for the same reason. They also installed more efficient motors and variable frequency drives to adjust their operations based on only when the pumps and motors are needed. Like Parkland, they did some lighting upgrades in their buildings, upgrading T12 fluorescent fixtures to more efficient T8 fixtures. And finally, they also installed new weather stripping and sealing on the exterior doors and windows to minimize air loss. In terms of cost savings, these upgrades are saving the town of Beaumont $12,500 each year. With our funding rebate factored in, this is helping them achieve a payback period of just under 2 years, which is very, very competitive. In terms of energy and greenhouse gas savings, they're saving about 13% of their energy relative to the baseline scenario and 11% in emissions. This translates to 76 tons of CO2 per year. So those are 2 case studies focused on energy efficiency, and I'm going to switch gears now to renewable energy. So another project that we helped support was the Starling County Solar Initiative. This initiative was spearheaded by Starling County, which is a rural municipality in central Alberta, to increase the deployment of solar PV by their residents and specifically by local farmers in the county. With funding from the MCCAC as well as Bullfrog Power, we are able to provide the local farmers with an installation incentive. So the installation incentive that they received was for 50 cents per watt of installed solar capacity to a maximum of $5,000. And this helped them improve the investment case for their solar installation and to get them on board with the program. There was great uptake of the program in the county, and one of the key success factors was Starling County developed really strong supplier relationships in order to reduce equipment cost, as well as encouraged local farmers to put in sweat equity to lower the installation cost. This allowed the installations to approach a 10-year payback period. When Starling County was doing their initial community engagement for the initiative, they talked to farmers about what investment case would be beneficial to them to get them to enroll in the program. And many of them cited the 10-year payback period as a trigger point for grabbing their attention and getting their participation. Farmers installed both rooftop, as seen on the previous slide, as well as ground mount units, as seen here, with rooftop units typically being placed on their agricultural outbuildings. Overall, the project resulted in 12 farmers across the county installing just over 105 kilowatts of solar. There has been strong demand for this program since initially doing the Starling County Solar Initiative, and the county continues to invest in programs to make this possible. To meet the growing demand for solar in the area and to accelerate the adoption of renewable energy, the county recently established the Alberta Solar Cooperative. The goal of the Alberta Solar Cooperative is to increase the deployment of solar PV by offering residents and businesses more flexible investment options for community solar. Their first cooperative project, called Starland Solar 1, is slated to be a 2 megawatt installation that'll feed directly into the grid. They're slated to start construction on this project in spring 2016. So what are some lessons learned from these case studies and from our programs? We have found that municipalities are very engaged and extremely well positioned to tackle climate change. Municipalities have direct influence over many areas that produce greenhouse gas emissions. They're very well connected to their citizens, and they're a nimble level of government. This makes them a key player and a very important part of the climate change solution. We've also found that small projects can serve as important catalysts for future action. This was seen in the example I just gave of Starling County, where a relatively modest 105 kilowatt solar project has grown to evolve into a very robust cooperative program whose just first project is slated to be 2 megawatts. This shows the curve where municipalities can really start with something small and get their foot in the door and then take really significant large-scale action in the future. We found that while municipalities are taking great leadership and making great strides in terms of addressing climate change, that there is a continued need for municipal incentives and capacity building programs. Our center continues to field calls and receive inquiries from municipalities who are looking for support for energy efficiency, renewable energy, and climate change in general. So the focus of my presentation today is on what we did in the past, but I just wanted to close by talking a little bit about what we are doing next. So we are very fortunate to receive a $2 million boost in funding from the Alberta government in June of this year. All told, we've received $6 million from the Alberta government, and this is allowing us to continue offering services and programs to municipalities to help them tackle climate change. With this additional funding, we're currently developing some new as well as some revised programs to enable municipalities to address climate change. On the revision side of things, one of the programs we'll be launching shortly is TAME+. This is going to be a revised edition of our initial TAME program. So the intent of it will be very similar to what we had in the past, and the objective of the program is to increase the deployment of energy efficiency retrofits by providing municipalities with rebates. One of the biggest changes that will benefit municipalities is we plan to increase the cap of funding that they are eligible for, which will allow them to do bigger retrofit projects and more energy conservation measures in total. On the climate change adaptation side of things, we recently launched a pilot program called Climate Resilience Express in collaboration with the All One Sky Foundation. This program was made possible with funding support from Natural Resources Canada, as well as the Calgary Foundation and Alberta Eco Trust. Through this program, we're working with 4 pilot communities to deliver custom adaptation planning workshops and to develop custom adaptation plans for each community. We'll be using the lessons learned from this experience to develop a Climate Resilience Express toolkit, which will provide an overview of this process and hands-on tools that municipalities can use to guide themselves through the process with minimal outside support. So the toolkit will be launched in spring of next year, and we'll also be offering training workshops to municipalities to get them more familiar with the toolkit and more comfortable with using it themselves. We're also looking to develop some additional programs to increase the deployment of renewable energy, as well as to expand our education offerings through things like energy management training. For the latest information on TAME and all of our new programs, we'll be updating the news section of our website. So I encourage you to visit it regularly to find out how our programs can benefit you. And we'll also be updating the AUMA and AAMD&C newsletters. So that brings me to the end of my webinar today. I'm happy now to field any questions you may have. And I also have my contact information up here if you'd like to get in touch to talk further when we're offline from the webinar.
So I guess if participants would hover over the upper part of their screen, and if you have any questions, please use the Q&A function to post questions. We'll just give them a few moments, Laura, for them to post any questions. So in total, Laura, we've got 19 participants. Just while they're pondering, posing questions. Okay, we've got a comment from Kendra Isaac. Thanks for a great presentation, Laura.
Thanks, Kendra.
So whereabouts are you from, Kendra? Please feel, oh, Heidi Igel. So how would you as a resident encourage your municipality to take part?
So I am a resident of the City of Edmonton and certainly interested in having the City of Edmonton take part in these initiatives. So I think a large part of the resident role is to show their councillors and their administrative staff in their municipality that they are interested in energy efficiency. So this could be a very direct form of engagement at things like council meetings or open houses hosted by their municipalities. Or they may wish to, get involved in email or write letters to their councillors saying energy efficiency and climate change is important to us. We encourage you to take part in these initiatives and to look to the MCCAC as a resource.
Great, Laura. Thanks so much for that. Any more questions, folks that are online? I guess while people are pondering that, Laura, I think it's probably would be a good thing if you kind of reviewed or summarized what your organization provides municipalities throughout Alberta.
Sure. So the focus of our incentive program side of things is on energy efficiency. So we seek to develop incentives and programs for municipalities specifically to improve the energy efficiency of their own operations. So these are focused on municipal buildings in particular and not on residential or commercial or institutional buildings. So for municipal building upgrades, we provide incentives to improve the energy efficiency through the TAME program. So we offered that program between 2011 and 2013. And we'll be relaunching the new version of the program this fall. Mm-hmm. On the education side of things is where we delve a bit more into some other areas of the climate change issue. So that's where we're having pilot projects like Climate Resilience Express to guide municipalities through the adaptation planning process. We're also just in the early stages of developing a toolkit for municipalities to help them deploy solar and to get through some of the hoops that are involved with deploying solar in their municipalities.
That's great, Laura. Jordy has asked, are programs exclusive to municipalities or are improvement districts supported as well?
Improvement districts would also be supported. So eligible municipalities would include, any town, city, village, or county in Alberta, as well as the specialized municipalities. So that would include the improvement districts.
Another question, Laura, that someone has submitted is, has Strathcona County expressed interest? You got Parkland on the other side of Edmonton. Have you got Strathcona County involved?
They haven't directly participated in one of our funding programs, but we did a couple workshops where they were involved, and specifically we ran a workshop in 2013 in collaboration with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. And the goal of this workshop was to guide Strathcona County in particular. It was actually hidden at the time that they were the pilot community, but we were guiding the municipality through some of the steps that they would need to go through to reduce their emissions at the community-wide level. So that's the extent of their involvement to date, but we're certainly interested in working with them in the future.
So we've got another question here. Do you send out any packages of information or links to digital packages that we could forward to interested folks?
Yes. If you get in touch with me, I can add you to our mailing list. And so that I send out through our distribution network by email any pertinent information on new programs, as well as initiatives that other organizations may be having. Just to raise awareness of what's out there in terms of climate change and energy efficiency. So anyone that is interested in being placed on that distribution list, please feel free to email me at the address on the screen, and I'll ensure that you get that information.
One of the things that I noticed kind of checking out your website, Laura, was a case study related to the Edmonton community leagues. Is my memory accurate?
Yes, it's accurate. So I can give a bit of background information on that project in particular. So we worked with 6 different community leagues in the city of Edmonton to do a 2-part project. So they participated in TAME and did energy efficiency retrofits of their buildings. But they were one of the unique TAME projects because not only did they upgrade their energy efficiency, but they also became solar PV generators. So on each of those buildings, and you'll see if you are local to Edmonton, if you drive around to any of those community leagues like Ritchie, North Glenora, Meadowlark, they all have solar panel installations on the top of their building between 5 and 10 kilowatts.
No, that's really interesting because I think people, have expressed an interest as far as it's not just government buildings. It's your example of the agricultural example, Laura, and now with the community leagues. I mean, what buildings are out of bounds?
Generally speaking, what would be out of bounds is any private business. The provincial or federal government would be out of bounds, but any building that is owned by a municipality would be eligible. So there might be a community-related organization that's located on municipal land, and so they would be eligible. The only caveat is the municipality would have to apply on their behalf. But generally speaking, community-related organizations, as long as the land or the building itself is owned by the municipality and they're being operated out of there, they would be eligible.
And another thing that I noticed on your website, and of course with this initiative and others, you're certainly very active in doing webinars.
Yes, we've done a few webinars in the past, and often in partnership with other organizations, such as this series. So we have a YouTube channel, which is brand new. So right now it only has the Greening Government webinars on there. But going forward, we'll be putting all of our webinars from our archives up on that YouTube channel. So you'll be able to access that. So we've done webinars on the TAME program, on different renewable energy technologies. And often we're inviting guest speakers, so in particular municipalities, to actually talk firsthand about their experiences.
Well, you're definitely walking the talk as far as using digital technology and reducing your organization's carbon footprint. So kudos to you guys for doing that. I guess I would ask participants, are there any more questions? Okay. Are there any joint education initiatives where you have worked with education staff in our department and municipalities? Do you have any examples of how we could work on this and include schools? Are you involved with the Greening Schools project led by the Alberta Council of Environmental Educators, for example?
We haven't had any direct involvement with either school boards or related organizations that provide education through those platforms. We did a workshop in the past, I think it was back in 2013, with the Alberta Council for Environmental Education, but that workshop was targeted at municipal stakeholders. But that's something we're certainly open to, getting our message out to all stakeholders, whether they're a resident of a municipality or the municipality themselves is critical. So we'd certainly be open to those opportunities in the future.
Oh, that's excellent, Laura. So I guess a final call for more questions from our participants. Do you have any direct relationship with FCM brownfield initiatives? Olds is beginning new brownfield initiatives with FCM, Laura.
We don't specifically work on the brownfield issue, and we don't directly work with FCM. Our relationship with FCM to date has been on delivering education. So we've done 2 workshops in partnership with them, one on climate change adaptation and one on the Partners for Climate Protection program. But I am familiar with their Green Municipal Fund program, and I know that one of the categories of that program is funding brownfield initiatives. So while MCCAC isn't directly involved, would definitely be interested to learn what you're doing and encourage you to get in touch with FCM about that.
Well, that's great, Laura. Thanks so much for spending the time with us and exposing everyone to what your organization is doing for Alberta communities and governments in Alberta. And I guess at this time, I'd like to thank you so much for spending the time, Laura. And I'd like to introduce our next session next Wednesday over the lunch hour is a presentation by Terry Godwalt with the Global Center for Education, and his topic is digital carbon-free outreach. It's interesting. I know that Terry is really, really busy right now in preparing for sending a youth delegation to the climate change talks in Paris. So I was pretty happy that Terry, found the time to present next week. Again, Laura, thanks so much for presenting today, and we look forward to collaboration on the rest of the series.
Thanks, Ted.